Thanks, Roy. Tom, can you hear me okay? Cool. How's everybody doing today? There's Peter.
Greetings.
How you doing?
Hanging in there.
Oh, I hear you. A quick question, Peter, before we go live. In the planning and zoning on their webpage, they list a lot of procedural components that are available to the public. And the grievance piece in there, is that a grievance piece for an abutter or in general?
This is the Planning Commission.
Yeah.
So the way it used to work, anybody who attended a Planning Commission meeting and who had gotten their name in had the right to raise an issue.
Okay. So I thought that's what it looked like as far as, the way it was structured.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I paid attention to that, but my memory was basically if you attended a meeting, raised an issue, and had your name on the attendance list, you then were in a position to raise the issue again if you didn't like the outcome.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
Right.
That's what it looked like, the interpretation. Yeah.
Right. When we get going, could you ask that Olivia be let in? She's in the.
Oh. We should just ask the.
As is Nancy and Hava and Russell. They're all. Everybody's in the attendees list at the moment. So.
There they go. Yeah, they figured it out.
Okay.
Maybe I should let these people in, especially the ones that are party to the meeting.
Mhm.
It's starting to change. Hi, Olivia.
Hello, Coach. How are you doing?
Good, and you?
Doing pretty good. Mr. North has not been let in yet.
Well, he's on the stage,
Oh.
so I think he might have logged in. So he could be in two places at once now.
Good evening, Hava.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We can.
How you doing?
Excellent. Good. I'm good. I'm good. I love the weather today. It was bright. It was sunny. Children were
warm.
outside.
Mm. All of those pluses, winter pluses.
That's right.
How you doing, Nance?
You all know this.
Good. How are you?
Out of Addison County.
Are you doing well?
Issues in Addison County, Ripton,
Yeah.
leaving Middlebury School
Good.
District. So these public organizations,
You're doing two meetings at once again, Nancy?
groups of people.
Sorry.
Advocates.
It's VSBA.
I know.
We've got tons of stuff to vote on, so I'm just on mute and no picture until they call for a vote.
To pull their town
Sorry,
out of the district.
I can't. I need to be on both meetings tonight.
Nancy, I just want to thank you again. Like,
Boards are trying,
I
at
just
least
am
in
so
Addison County,
appreciative
are
that you
trying to keep
represent
our districts
all of
in one
Hartford
piece.
on this board. So, like,
And
you know, I think we
Thank
can
you.
deal with a little bit of muting. We're good. Your work is
Thank you.
important.
Thank you.
These ad hoc.
I tell you, I was up
advocacy
till 2:30 this morning listening
petition,
to legislative session reruns because I just couldn't seem to work them in at the time that they were doing live. So I was a little la-la this morning,
Based on.
but I got them all in. So
Information votes to keep their community school, which I support.
So you'll probably need to mute Nancy though.
are you picking up this? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
No.
It's
But they do
It's
I
it.
do
just when
apologize for it.
no when you're doing multiples, it gets a little tricky. I've had up to 3 going at the same time, and but I use earbuds for different ones, so I've got one in one ear, one in the other, and then the other one out front. So now that's when it gets tricky about muting, because every once in a while you'll say something and somebody will say, Coach, and you go, oops. Caught me.
I don't think I would want to try it. I have hard enough time being coherent in the single meeting.
It's one of those exercises, mental exercises,
Mm.
Well, it looks like we have our quorum. And Roy, thanks for relaying the message earlier. Kathy, how you doing? Geez. And there's Brother Tom. Okay, I guess we're ready to get the show rolling.
You gotta sit up straight.
You guys are on.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear us?
Yep. We're good.
I think we're ready to roll, Coach.
Cool. So we'd like to call to order the February 9th, 2022. Wow, that's really school board meeting. Hartford School Board meeting, 2022, February 9th. Time flies. So, first order of business. Are there any changes, additions, and approvals?
Yes, if we could add appointments, resignations, and retirements. I guess I'll put that back on the agenda as a regular item.
Yeah.
For this coming months, so we need.
Yeah, it's that time of year again.
Yes, and then I believe we need an executive session.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Any other changes, additions?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. So can we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Move that we approve the agenda as amended.
I second that.
We have a second. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved unanimously. So the first order of business is our global ends reporting, section 1 policy EP. Review of district's ends policies in relation to current events. And our associate superintendents teams have been leading us through that process. So folks, you have the floor.
Hey, Coach. So for tonight, we're going to focus on citizenship and global awareness. And where we wanted to bring your attention is to some of the work that Maggie's been doing with the district.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, so that you folks know, everybody here will be getting a district memo from Tom. And one of the components in there will be her district updates, so that you folks will see this. But it's a way for Maggie to share with the entire district what is some of the work going on, but also what are the opportunities that people could be joining in on that they might not be aware of if we didn't have this being posted everywhere.
Cool.
So she's just a brief overview. You know, she focuses on some of the things in terms of what are some things that she's reading and watching and focused on. But more importantly, for the district, two things she just wanted to bring attention to is celebrating Black History Month, and an activity that she's doing. She's working with the Hartford Community Coalition, where they've purchased the rights to a movie, Race to Be Human. And they're right now, they shared a first screening available for some teachers to preview, so they'd be ready to share it with students. So their goal is to show it the week they get back from break, with students who are interested in watching it and teachers who want to show it in their classes. But they're working out the finer details on that. But when you, like I said, you folks will get this memo and you'll have some access to some links, and you could do some research into the movie if that was something that interests you as well. She shares that some important dates around, most specifically, that she's still running our district equity committee, and highlighting that the anti-racism group is still meeting monthly. Today was their meeting date. So, but the future ones are also listed, so that's a type of committee that people have been able to drop in and drop out. So it hasn't been that if you start where you can't commit to all the meetings that you can't access them. So it is it allows for, although the enrollment fluctuates from month to month, I think it's been great that people don't feel the pressure that if they can't make one, they can't come to any of them. So it's run well that way. And the last thing in here that I just want to focus on is Maggie is working very hard to create a BIPOC family resource group. And she's been working with all the schools in terms of trying to create some awareness around this group and trying to build resources. And she has some dates here that February 22nd, March 22nd, April 26th, May 24th, and June 7th are nights where she's inviting people to take part in this group. So I just wanted to make sure to highlight that one as well. As always, if you go to the equity page, equity and inclusion page on our district website, she posts all this information as well. But as you know, with websites, you have to go looking for the information to get the information. I think this letter is just another way to ensure people are getting it. But I'm in awe of the work she's doing and how much she is able to accomplish as a first-year employee in the district, starting a brand new position. So I just want to make sure we highlighted it today. So I appreciate your time.
I'm really happy that you're sharing this with the not just the board, but the Hartford school community at large. Because like you said, not everyone goes to the web page necessarily looking for it. So you and Kathy bringing this forward as a highlight, and as it relates to our ends policies as well, because that's one of those global awareness pieces that we're hoping to expand, with our students, across the spectrum. So this is really exciting work that's going on. And thank you both for helping her facilitate this, and Tom. Any questions from the board? Thoughts?
No.
Other than echoing the words earlier about how wonderful a job she's doing, I don't have anything to say.
Agreed. And that this is a lot of work to be getting done in a first year on the job. So I'm pretty amazed to see all the hard work and engagement she's already managed to bring together. It's pretty cool to see.
I've had several parents come up to me and one of them that has actually joined this group, and they are extremely impressed with her and the work that she's doing. So I want to pass that along too.
Well, I'm a firm believer when you hire rock stars, what else would you expect? So that being said, thank you very much, Roy and Kathy and Tom, for that piece. The next item of business is the student representative reports. So Miss Olivia, you have the floor.
Thank you.
And just a quick note, Olivia will be leaving us a little early because it is that time of year and our students have to keep focused.
Yes, the homework is piling up.
And our other representative is out on the ice tonight. So
that's that focus,
there you go. And they're doing great. So
Unified board that has one community that is unhappy about anything.
Well, it is the week before February break in the Hartford School District, but a lot is going on. The One Act Drama Club will be able to perform in person this Friday. And that is a huge milestone in the school because this is the first time in 2 years that the One Act Drama Club has been able to perform in person with a full audience. And all the members of that performing group are really, really appreciating the opportunity. Along that theme of performing opportunities that are opening up, the band and choir performances this year are back on schedule. And we in band were reflecting on the fact that it has been almost 2 years since our last indoor concert. We managed to sneak in one concert in early March before school got shut down due to COVID. And so we are planning a new concert that is coming up in March this year. And then we are also hoping to continue on with our regular spring concerts, and then also hopefully playing at graduation as well. There have been a lot of really impressive sports accomplishments this past couple weeks. So the Hartford High School speech team, although not necessarily a sporting organization, but still very competitive group in our school, placed second overall at states this past weekend. And one member of the Hartford High School team placed third overall in his category, and 3 other members of the team placed first in their categories. So a very impressive accomplishment for the speech team, but also the school as a whole. And along with that, several members of the Hartford High School indoor track team qualified for the New England regional competition. So they performed well enough at the state competition that they are now going on to the next level with New England's. Can you change the slide? Thank you. So some big topics of interest inside the school right now are finding ways to support students who are at home with COVID or in quarantine, or for other COVID-related reasons can't be in school in person. So students who are at home or out sick are not able to engage with their classes, even if they feel well enough to, and that can result in a lot of work piling up or a feeling of loss of connection between them and their classmates and their teachers. And so we are just trying to look to find new ways of being able to keep that strong classroom connection, even if we can't gather all in person or fully switch to the formal like remote options of providing education like we sometimes did last year. But another big thing is keeping up with COVID vigilance, but also at the same time, that feeling of student enthusiasm. It's been a long time. Mask wearing is definitely getting tiring. And a lot of students are feeling that real COVID fatigue and are keeping up with mask wearing, trying to keep their community safe, but also are really feeling the weight of this pandemic and how it's been dragging on for quite a while. So in the Hartford High School community, we're trying to find new ways to keep up the enthusiasm, celebrating sporting events as they happen, performing opportunities, things like that, and just to find new ways to bring the community together over something really, really happy and really encouraging. I would like to highlight a couple areas of appreciation. The first of which is just a huge amount of responsiveness and support from the Hartford High School community. And so this includes several different components. The first of which, going back to the amazing work Ms. Ibrahim has done in the past, she took some time to come in to talk with students and personally make sure that we knew that our concerns were being heard and that she was going to take the time to address anything and everything that we bring up to her. And she was making sure to specify that even though she's really busy and may not be able to send us an email and that change is slow, she is still going to continue to work on making our voices feel heard and make sure the change that we feel needs to happen does end up happening. And so on behalf of the Hartford High School and like greater Hartford High School community, I again would like to say thank you so, so much. Another big area is going off of what had come up at a school board meeting last month or so, which was that students in the high school weren't receiving COVID email updates. And so I am very happy to say that we are now receiving COVID email updates. Full emails about a number of cases in the school each day, emails about updates to vaccine policies or quarantine policies or things like that. But also, most importantly, when COVID tests are available and where they're available. There was a brief period in the school community when we were out of COVID tests to give to students, but the administration at the high school worked quickly to make sure that we were able to get enough tests. And now I am very pleased to report that that was all swiftly remedied, and we are back to fully giving out tests as they are needed to support students who were close contacts or got infected. Are there any questions?
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
I'm just curious, opinion. Do you think it made a difference to students, or what difference do you think it made to students to be receiving COVID updates?
With a very small sample of the people in my class and the people I talked to, this made a massive difference, because before we only knew how many cases were in our school and in our learning community because our parents would tell us. And so for teenagers, young adults, it was just this extra barrier and this feeling that we weren't able to access information because we weren't receiving regular updates. So Tom DeBalzi, your amazing responsiveness in making sure that students received emails was able to really alleviate a lot of the frustration that students may have been feeling, spread information, reliable information much faster, and make it so that students weren't relying on word of mouth or potentially rumors as much. So it's made a huge difference.
Do you think it's helped alleviate any mask fatigue? You know, to know, hey, there were 5 cases. Hey, there were only 4 cases, and we've been really vigilant. Hey, today there were only, I think I saw the updates, there was 1 or 2 cases at the high school today, and that's not bad. We had a pretty high rate for a while.
I'm not entirely sure, and I don't think that there's a lot of a connection between the two, because there's always been a very high rate of mask compliance and continued mask compliance, even during times of great surges and stuff like that. So we've been trying to, as a community, stay away from this idea that if you have COVID, it means you were doing something wrong or you weren't compliant enough, and really moving towards the attitude of, if you are sick, we're going to do everything we can to support you, because we're all hurricanes, we're a community, and we want you to feel better and get back to school.
Okay, thanks for that, Olivia. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ava.
One thing before I do my piece, interesting about the communication, because all along I thought that the messages I was sending to students and their families and parents were going to the students. But when Olivia asked that a couple months ago about, you know, can we get the messages? I said, I thought you were getting the messages. But Bill Yates, who handles data administration and really handles IC, Infinite Campus, that's our database, said, no, those are just going to the family. So it's sort of incorrectly labeled in there. So I had to do a workaround in the system and I send out a special notice just to students after I do all the other COVID notices for the district. So sometimes it's not what it appears with the communication, and Roy and Kathy and I are finding that out, that sometimes people think you're doing something intentionally, but it's accidental or inadvertent. So somehow we need to find ways to communicate with each other. So it's like, oh, I didn't know you weren't getting those, and I can do a workaround. Happens with the staff sometimes too.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's a systems awareness piece. And the thing is, it happens everywhere, almost at every level, you know, as well. And I think, you know, Tom hit it on the head. It's a question of communication, you know, and us just saying, you know, did you notice that you're getting it, or did I get it? Did I not get it? You know, and usually that's enough to go, huh? And there comes the workaround, you know.
And we really appreciate your diligence with all of that. I've had several people come up to me and be like, "Oh, thank you so much for making this happen." And I'm always saying, "Oh no, it's Mr. DeBalzi. You need to thank him because he's the one who really made it happen."
Yeah, it took a little perseverance, but it worked. I was always told that when I send a message, and some people get upset about this, but I send them as an emergency message, it goes to everybody in the database. So I was assuming that that meant everyone. But I guess with notices of that sort, it just goes to the adults, basically,
Right.
the staff and parents. And not to the students. So it's a whole separate message within the system I send, but it works really well. I mean, it's easy to do. I just didn't know. So thank you, Olivia. That's a big plus. All right, I'll just jump into my report. I mean, big news this week is that we're winding things down for February vacation. It's hard to believe, but next week we're all off, so people are extremely busy this week trying to get everything in before they have a week off. But I was going to mostly from my report talk about the meeting that we had back in November, and Coach asked me to provide an update to the board and to the community about the resolution sort of that I put forth in my letter to the board in November, when there was teachers with concerns, community members with concerns, students about things in the district, you know, mostly around the stress level and anxiety at that time, mostly stemming from COVID, COVID cases and the state of affairs with COVID in November is a whole different story than it is right now. But I think overall things have been improving. It's quite recent, maybe the last 2 weeks. I think Hava mentioned cases have really declined drastically. I mean, we were having numerous cases every day at every school, and the last 2 weeks we've had 1 or 2 here and there, not even at every single school. So that's been a huge improvement, and I think taking some of the stress off. Not everything. I mean, we're still seeing behavior issues everywhere. Not quite as drastic and not quite as frequent as we were, but I can't say that those have been eliminated. We did put a pause, immediate cease on the EL education. So that's what that is. I think that's alleviated some stress at the elementary level, and we're not implementing this new rather large undertaking, the curriculum. Vaccine and testing. The vaccination isn't as big a deal. We've been offering them regularly at the high school. That isn't as big a need right now, as a lot of our community is vaccinated, but we keep that going and keep it open and available. There's probably still some people that need the booster, and as more groups of the population become eligible, we'll make sure we have the clinics open. Testing, Olivia already talked about that. There was a week, the first week that they started the antigen testing, the take-home testing, we did run out. We quickly resolved that, and we've been well supplied ever since. So we're in very good shape with that. I can add here, the state and many states are talking about doing away with the mask ordinances. Our governor has talked about that a little bit, hasn't come up with the final decision, but that is looming out there. I think the current order expires the week after vacation. So if you have a concern there, you may want to write to him or the Department of Health about what you think. Volunteers, that was one of the resolutions we talked about was, I think it was Russ's suggestion about a volunteer coordinator. Just got a little bit of data. In 2020, we processed 190 applications for volunteers. And last year, which was sort of at the height of COVID, we only processed 14. And this year so far, we've processed 137 applications. So they're climbing. We talk often about a volunteer coordinator in the office. Haven't quite decided how that would go and whether we would want to do that at the district level, at the school level, whether it's a volunteer coordinator or a paid volunteer coordinator. So it's still something that's in the works, but we're really appreciative of the number of volunteers in the community. It's terrific. I sign each one of them, so I'm very aware of how many come in every day. Social emotional supports, Roy and Kathy are going to speak to that quickly. We've done quite a bit. And they know the specifics because they handle the grants, which is paying for most of it.
Right. So as Tom said, we've put some extra supports in both at the elementary level and the secondary level, extra supports in the way of increased clinicians and supports within the classroom. So particularly with the younger grades and also in the high school. So we continue to monitor that and look at that and evaluate it going forward and seeing how we can build on that for future years. And seems to be having a pretty positive impact so far.
We've done well with the support of our local mental health agency to fill positions. That's probably the bigger problem right now, is not the lack of positions, but the professionals to fill the positions. And I think you've probably heard that that's sort of a thing everywhere. But we're fortunate we have a mental health agency that works pretty closely with us and is very helpful. So we're doing as much as we can there. We were able to hire a clinician at the high school recently. We are still looking for a substance abuse professional at the high school. So we're really excited to have that position, but we just got to find a qualified candidate to fill it. Staff feedback. We've benefited from several different surveys that have been out. So we're really excited about that. One of the things, Roy, you already leaked, I'm working on a newsletter that's going to go out to all of the faculty and staff and school board members and administrators about just goings on in the district. I do a regular weekly Monday memo to the administrators, and what we tried to do there was do something quick and easy that wasn't so hard to assemble and get out. One of the things that is one of my faults is I try to make it too elaborate and too fancy and too polished, and then it doesn't get done because you get busy and you don't have the time to spend on the newsletter with pictures and So the Monday memos work because it's basically a series of topics, and I put in a sentence or two about what's going on and pertinent information that the administrators need to know, and I send it. The district memo is going to be similar, probably a little more polished because it's going to a much broader, bigger audience, but it will be pictureless and primarily things you really need to know or might want to know, or places to go find information that you're looking for. So current events, new policies, new procedures, new regulations, maybe something payroll wants to get out, something technology department wants to get out to the employees or to staff. Pretty excited about it. Hopefully the first edition will go out before the end of this week. And then we'll try to do it monthly to start with. I'm pretty excited about that. You'll have to let me know what you think. You will get it because you're on HSD email. transportation, things have gotten a lot better in transportation as far as drivers. We do have periodic absences due to COVID-related illness of drivers. They don't have a lot of substitutes or people who can step in. We haven't canceled routes. We've had some late pickups and late drop-offs in the afternoon, but they're very few and far between and getting fewer and further between. So pretty excited about that. We have had a couple new drivers too who are paraprofessionals in the school, and that's working out really well. Takes a little bit of work on the district's part so that they can, you know, come in after their run, park their bus somewhere, leave for their run. But it's also been beneficial for field trips and things like that, where they can actually have the bus right at the school, get on, go to the field trip. And we just have to negotiate with the bus company about how to pay the driver so they don't get double paid. But it's working really well. We have a couple situations like that. And I think the last thing I mentioned in that response back in November, December was in-service days. The remaining days have been wiped clear for the teachers to work on their own initiatives and on their own accord, and that's what we've done, and it's gone really well. So I think that's all I had in my report. Any questions about any of that?
Yes, Olivia.
Thank you. If the Vermont state mask mandate gets repealed, will we be able to continue requiring mask wearing inside the school?
I think that would require some action by the board, but I'm not sure if that would probably be discouraged by the state, but I'd have to investigate a little if the board wanted to go further than what the Department of Health is recommending.
But didn't we already approve a requirement? So I think that would still be in effect. And we could have a discussion, but I think we could still require it if we so chose.
I believe so, but I'll be happy to sort of dig into that a little, make sure we have all the information we can.
Thank you.
There has been quite a, it is quite a contentious issue, just so we are aware. There in our community, I think overall we're fortunate. We have a lot more people that support the mask than don't, but in several of my colleagues or counterparts districts, they have regular discourse over this at every board meeting. So it's a hot topic across the state and the region about whether or not to wear masks and mandate.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is we've been consistent, you know, and consistency, you know, breeds better comfort. You know, people might not always agree, but they understand where we are and how we feel about student and staff and public safety in our community. And we've just been very diligent about it, even though the state has made its own opinions, and that's what they are. You know, it's an opinion and a choice, you know, but it's just so happens that the person who has the power of the pen to just make it happen chose not to, and left it up to the individual districts and towns and communities to do so. So Nancy, you were going to say?
Yes, I was going to say, and at the select board last night, they did approve for the mandate to continue for the, next 30 days, next 45 days. It ends, it ends the end of March. They will have to vote again. I think they have to do it every 45 days. Yeah. But they did vote last night to continue it, the mandate for Hartford.
So it's consistent with where we are.
Right.
And what Russ just mentioned. So it's easier for folks to not get into a big kerfuffle, so to speak.
Exactly.
You know, when the whole community is wrapping their arms around this issue in a positive way.
Exactly.
Coach?
Yes, sir.
I would also think before we do a change or consider a change, we should get some feedback from the teachers and other staff, because they're the ones who may be the most anxious about any change in the policy. I'm not saying we would necessarily have to follow their guidance, but I think it's important they have a voice and are able to express their opinion about the matter.
Well, for us, we're fortunate because that's what we would do. Thank goodness. And so your point's well taken. I think it would make sense if we look at the calendar and see basically whatever Tom's findings are from AOE, if they're looking at a target date for any kind of change, hopefully it would fit into our cycle of community engagement. But if it didn't, my suggestion to the board would be, even if we flipped the meeting sequence in order to get the engagement that you're referring to done in a public manner. Just a possible way to address it.
Yes, we can certainly, that does make a lot of sense. So we'll involve parties and get a feeling for what the community feels, then we can make a decision.
Oh yeah. Because it's been a community effort. That's why it's worked here. Everybody's been engaged and actively, and I'd say 99% on the same page, which puts us in a pretty good position, based on what we all know from our colleagues from other communities. They're not so fortunate in a way. So that brings us to the next piece of business, which is our governance process. And we're going to get a chance to review updates of the annual town school meeting.
Yeah, in the packet tonight, there is a document, budget discussion candidates night. So that outlines that very next meeting is Monday, February 21st. So it's the Monday that the school folks come back from vacation at 7 p.m. and that's fully remote. Remember, this is the meeting that we hold in the auditorium at the high school. It's kind of a interesting, I find, informative night where the town and the school do their budget presentations, and then questions are taken from the public. And then immediately following that, we have all candidates running for select board and school board in a discussion. They each get 2 or 3 minutes to speak, and then time for the public to ask questions. So that's all going to be done online, remotely on the 21st. So excited about that night. So in your packet, there is that document outlining the agenda and the rules. So you know if there was questions about that. And then that Saturday after that is the beginning of town meeting, the town meeting cycle, the information meeting that's also online. Oh, it's hard to believe it's already here, but it's here. Came quick.
And I haven't had a chance to discuss it with Harvey yet. I just sort of thought of it tonight, but maybe part of the community engagement meeting on the 23rd could be to respond to questions that aren't being able to answer, since I'm the only one who's going to be able to respond to the questions. And that way we'll be able to provide the feedback the public deserves and take some other questions perhaps that don't get there and wrap that into another budget presentation and Q&A during that community engagement meeting.
That makes sense because of the timing, Russ. It's a perfect time to engage the public even more broadly, because there's never enough time, it seems, to get through the questions, that folks have during that period. But if they know that it'll be part 2, or a continuation,
It's a good idea. I wasn't sure if you were even going to want to have that meeting because it was so close to the 21st, but I think that's a fine idea if the board wants to go forward with the 23rd.
And we could do it maybe even an abbreviated meeting, recognizing the short period. But had I known I was going to be the only one to respond to questions, I wouldn't have volunteered.
Russ is saying, geez, you guys got me this time. Yeah.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. So I believe, yes, the school board will go first that night, and the school board will also go first on
Saturday.
On the Saturday, the 26th at 10 a.m. Our turn to go first.
Yep.
Back and forth. Saturday, the 26th is primarily, the presentation of the annual report. What we've done in the past is have Kathy or Noel before her do an overview of what's in the annual report. The board accepts it, or people ask questions. With it being totally remote, we haven't done the salaries of elected officials. That's on the ballot. That's on the Australian ballot this year because we're fully remote. That's Saturday the 26th. Quite a bit different since we're fully remote.
Yep.
Yes, and for the public, that meeting is on Zoom, and the links are on the top of all the notices and the postings, but so are the phone number and the TV channel if you choose to watch it on TV. So Russ had asked about that. I want to make sure people know that.
So Tom, will we still have the middle school band and chorus present, as a prelude for that?
That's a good question. I will ask.
Because
I've not coordinated that, but I could ask.
Because that, I mean, they've worked hard and they sound so good. So anyways, it'd be a nice way to enhance the mood, so to speak.
I would graciously donate 5 minutes of my 35 for that.
You noticed how quickly he jumped on that one.
Yeah, I will ask Kristen Chapman.
Yes.
She's got a number or two ready. So any other questions about that? Kathy was going to do a brief review of the annual report, which is at the printers as we speak.
Great. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, so here is the final draft. And we'll just kind of scroll through a little bit. You'll notice that the format has not changed from last year and the year before and probably the year before that. So it's should be recognizable in terms of all the parts. It's a cover page. And then we have our table of contents. You'll notice there's no page numbers. That's because this is the draft that went to the printers. So in the book, it has all the page numbers. I encourage you to pay close attention to the beginning part of this, the letter from the board, and also the summaries from the schools. Each administrator spent quite a bit of time summarizing some of the things that are going on at their schools. So this is a really interesting part of the book, I think. And then going beyond that, you'll notice the same types of charts and graphs that you're used to seeing. I'm going to let Roy catch up a little bit because I don't want you to get sick as he scrolls through. All right, so obviously you have the general fund history, and then we have our students and staff data, which is updated from year to year. So you'll see previous years. And then the annual snapshot information, where you can get all of the information from the AOE's website and all the links that are associated with it, so that you can dig in deeper to our data, which is sparse because we did not take the SBAC tests previous to last year. Last year was the first time we took it, and of course we were in COVID as well still. So the number of or the amount of results, or the results that you'll see, are not that helpful, I guess I should say, but they're there for you to look at.
And did you highlight the fact that even though the the state tests don't show as much or with as much accuracy as we would hope, our work around individual testing in the district itself was still pretty thorough. At least that's what we've been, hearing back from.
Yes, the data that we have as a district is better than the data that we have from the state, and mostly because when students took SBAC, we had students in a remote situation, and we remember we were kind of half here, half not here, and in many cases there were students that were being remotely, accessing their education completely remotely, and so in many cases there is missing SBAC data because they didn't take the test, right? So yeah, we have better data ourselves. So just continuing through, once you get to this back part, or the ending part, is mostly, it's all the fiscal information that you have at your fingertips here. So there's another sort of table of contents as to the order of the expenditures and the summaries and the from the business office. And then that would bring you to the very last page, which would be the calendar. And of course, this report is accessible on the website too. So you can go to the website and see this. I think you put that there, Tom, right?
Yep. So the last several.
Yep.
So they're all on the board page on the left-hand margin.
So this report's on the website already?
Yes.
Good. That way I can access it from my presentation.
Yeah, it's been there since Kathy finished it, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's there first. It takes the printer a while
Mm-hmm.
to print it, but hopefully it'll be ready for Monday night.
Mm.
We'll get them out everywhere, but we may want to say at the beginning that it's available
On the website.
website. So
Right.
One wants it for that evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna possibly through a screenshot to sort of say, yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, we've been working just really hard to keep the website up to date. It's a monumental task, as you can imagine, but more regularly putting things that either the board acts on or that we accomplish up there right away. So for instance, this week, the calendar that went up a few weeks ago went up in Portuguese and Spanish on the website. The audit report is there. The annual report is there. All of the up-to-date COVID information is on the website. It's become much more of a repository or a library of district information than anything else. But I've evolved.
Tom and Kathy and Roy, I'd like to throw this out as a question. We've invested a lot of money, the state has, in interpretive services and translation services. And so my question would be, would one of you mind deciding, like pick the short straw or whatever, who might want to check to see if we had a parent, for example, who you knew had English as a second language, and they wanted that report or parts of it translated. We do have access to funds to do that, for them, for example, if that was a request that was made, or if it was one that you felt was necessary to help that family be more immersed, in our district. But if you guys want to decide, who might want to take that on, offline, I can refer you to who at the state, can actually make that happen.
Thanks, Coach.
Good to know.
Mhm.
Roy primarily deals with all the translation services. He's doing a fine job. Not easy.
Mm.
But
Well, I just thought I'd throw it out there because it's become, very front and center, in one of my other lives. So I just felt that I'd share that with our district so that we can, keep the district up in that level that we want it to be.
I would say it's become front and center here too in the school district. It's the regular daily occurrence that something needs to be translated. So it is a big piece of work now, which is good. Which means there's more diversity. So we're very excited about that.
That's what it's all about. Okay. So that brings us to as we work our way through Facilities Improvements Committee.
Just quickly, that I've been working hard to fill out the committee. We did have another volunteer, and that volunteer is a resident of Hartford who has experience with the facilities, but he is also a district administrator. So it's Jeff Marino, who's the assistant principal at the high school and the athletic director, but he would love to be on this committee. And I wanted to bring that to the board. Because I guess in my mind, he does fulfill the role requirements, but he also works for the district. So we haven't had other applicants. If you accept Jeff, there's one additional spot open for a community member with, preferably with some experience about facilities. I don't know how folks feel about that.
And that he has for sure. You were gonna, I saw you, Peter.
Yes, so we've been working together too long, Coach. My thought is that the committee was established the way it was to attempt to bring in outside voices. And that would be my overriding concern, that we do that But given that there aren't individuals in the community who are either capable or interested or willing, depending on their circumstances, to step up and take part in the meeting, we should go ahead and make use of somebody who is both a member of the school community and of the larger community.
Any other board thoughts,
It's still
comments?
board, I mean, he asked, he said he absolutely would understand if you don't want him, but
Yeah.
also wanted to offer his time.
If his presence meant excluding somebody else, I would
Right, that's
go
a
in
different,
favor of having
right.
another person. But since it's not, I think that any help in the moment would be a good thing.
He's very invested in the facility and how they look and projects that we're doing. He always has been really interested in everything.
Well, even from the days when he was my track captain, and we won't say how long ago that was, that interest showed itself even back then. And then in his career as an educator, there is no question or doubt in my mind that he's going to be a valuable asset to that committee.
Coach, yeah, understanding everything that's gone on, I do think then, given the composition of the committee, and maybe we can get an idea of exactly who's come forth thus far, I think it's going to be important for the committee to solicit ideas on what they would like.
Oh, yeah.
Because if we put too many people with specific building experience on it, and I understand why, there could be a perception that we've already made decisions as to what it is we're going to do. And that's not my intent for the committee. I don't know about the other board members. But first, I think we need to find out what the community would like, work that into what we need, and then get to that point. So I just
well, I think that's part of the charge of the committee. The fact that we needed a group of folks, who would be able to disaggregate that data, so to speak. Because to just do a global question and not have like a group of folks to kind of help pull that initial report together, or that foundation statement. These are our findings from that outreach and that question, to our community, the Hartford community. What are our next steps? Where do we want to grow to? What do we want to do? Those are critical questions. And but it's nice to have a group that's going to filter those and go, okay, this looks like where our folks would like us to be. So your point's well taken.
He works at the high school, but he has a real investment in all the district schools, especially playing fields. But he lives in the Ottaquechee catchment area, so very concerned about that.
Yeah.
And he would be the only one who works in one particular school. The rest of the committee, it's Jonathan Garthwaite, who is the director of buildings and grounds. Obviously, he's concerned about the whole district. Myself, who is concerned about the whole district and various projects. Doug Heavysides, the father, I call him, and he's concerned about the whole district too. Long-time resident, very instrumental on the Wilder Building Committee, and then Russ North, and so I feel like we have a really good team. And I mean, our take was just to start with like the lay of the land. What are the needs for as far as maintenance and any improvement projects that might be on the docket, and then just what Russ said, trying to pull the community about what their interests are, their concerns, or what they'd like to see, and get started. So we
Well-
have some both the improvements
Mm.
and maintenance things, and we just kind of want to get it all on the table and figure out where things, what the hierarchy is of what's really needed, and what our wants, and what comes first, and how we're going to scale that whole thing.
Well, remember, how we started this conversation, and it started 12 years ago, actually. And it started with the 25-year plan. Okay, that maintenance plan. And all of the research that we put good investment into to start that foundation. So, we've done a lot of the preliminary work, for this. We just haven't had a dedicated group of folks to deal with our next steps, which is great, so this is an exciting time for us, around facilities. Roy?
Just a clarifying question from Russ around, if you were going to engage the community into those questions, would you be thinking that Wednesday right after the budget night, or are you thinking a separate meeting? I'm asking because Kathy and I want to engage the community around how we are going to use ESSER funds and collect feedback on that. It might make a real nice ESSER funding and future building planning, but it's people who are just engaged with how the school district's moving forward. It might be a great time to double up there.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
And I was thinking, not even necessarily that quickly. I mean, maybe the committee gets a little bit of the lay of the land, and then we do a community engagement shortly thereafter, but not right away type thing.
Okay.
But being that ESSER is on the table and needs to be addressed, because if you don't address it, it's going away. And there are some requirements time-wise, that the ESSER funds are related to. So let's just think of it in stages. Okay. We have a perfect opportunity, with that engagement meeting. So this will be the first phase, of a series. This will be our community engagement facilities and ESSER, or whatever you want to call it, but it's a series of events.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and there will be projects that are sort of very conducive to using ESSER money for, but I think that the committee needs to sort of understand the projects, understand the array of things that need to be done, and whether or not the committee wants to propose to the school board, X project with X funding, sort of thing, and not have it, come from me or somewhere else. So it'll be a really good process.
And that's fine. It's, the engagement piece, we've already established, a good rapport with the community in that regard. So while we've got this relationship, let's keep it going in a positive way.
And absolutely want to know what the community wants to know for their school district. I think that's terrific.
Yeah.
How soon are you thinking of starting community meetings?
Committee meetings, I'd love to see something, in March start. It's just been hard with first not having the full array, and then everything with town meeting, and it's been busy. We've got 2 administrator searches going on right now, but I hope in March.
Okay, so we can make that a priority.
Yeah,
I mean,
does that make sense to you, or?
It does make sense, given everything that's previously been discussed, and I think maybe you and I, Tom, can talk about it. We should pick a date certain.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, there's always going to be something.
And well, is that, February, hard to believe, but February for the school folks is pretty much over. I mean, we come back in 1 week. With
Yeah.
town meeting, we have all that stuff, so that's obviously not a week to me. So March is right around the corner.
You got it.
We could get started in March, even though we still have one vacancy on the committee. We can just see how it's gonna go. So
yeah,
I would envision the first or second week in March, Russ.
That would work for me. I mean, again, we just pick a date. And maybe you could solicit like when it would work in people's schedules type thing.
Yeah.
And then, because for me, it would be good if we can set up somewhat of a consistent,
Exactly.
because that way I can put it in my schedule and make sure it's a priority. And I'm sure other people would feel the same way.
Yeah. No, that would be great. That was my goal.
That makes sense, Russ.
That's why I brought it tonight, because I wanted to make sure it was okay for you. I really didn't want to start with 2 vacancies, but I think we can start with 1 vacancy and go from there. So as long as you're okay with Jeff Marino, we can get started and we'll do that. That'll be job 1 when we come back from vacation.
I don't think we need a formal motion, because we haven't really done a formal appointment of the other committee members. So I'll just say that we'll take a straw poll, and as long as there's no deference, we can go ahead and move forward, procedurally, because you get a procedure geek and they might go, well, you guys didn't vote for this, and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, so that being said, are we all in agreement reasonably about having Jeff join the facilities committee?
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thumbs. Now you can't get much more convincing than that, I guess.
So Russ hasn't said this, but on his behalf, please keep in mind that he's getting into tax season.
Oh
soon.
yeah, well that's that's that other piece. We
we don't want to run him into an early grave by working him too hard.
Well, that's
I have gray hair.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why this engagement piece coming up, kind of fits, because Roy, Hava, Kathy, will be able to provide a lot of extra support, in that facilitating the next meeting. So, we'll be in pretty good shape, I think.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. So the next item is the COVID updates, nursing compensation approval.
This has been an ongoing topic as we've dealt with the COVID pandemic. Our school nurses there's 6 of them, and they're all part of the negotiated agreement with the teachers union. They're all covered by the collective bargaining agreement with the teachers. So they're salaried, and working with all of them very closely through the pandemic. I've been acutely aware of how much time they're spending, way above and beyond the school day and the normal amount of time that anyone would be expected under the school collective bargaining agreement. Work, contact tracing, answering questions for parents and staff, well into the evening, 11, 12 o'clock at night, for a long period of time, especially when COVID was really at its peak, pretty much all this year until the last 2 weeks. And they're still working really hard with all the testing. But on the weekends, it just doesn't stop. So the LMC, which is the Labor Management Council, so there's representatives from the HEA and the administration, also brought it up. What can we do for the nurses? So we're the representatives are all in agreement from the LMC that we use the collective bargaining agreement stipend schedule. So basically the coaches and extracurricular stipend schedule to use the three varsity coach stipends as the sort of upper limit. Those are $4,250 a piece. So there's 3 seasons. So the maximum would be 3 seasons at $4,250. But using that sort of as the baseline for the nurse that has the most students and the most staff, and then prorating it from there down or up, depending on which way you look at it. So for instance, Felicia Hayes has the biggest caseload. She's an RN at the high school and tech center. So she has all the students at the high school and the tech center, as well as all the staff at both. She would get the maximum amount, whereas Janet Thomas at the Wilder School has the lowest caseload with the lowest number of students and the lowest number of staff. So it would be prorated based on a per student staff. So.
Right. So using the you know, we really don't have to get too detailed about it, and I'm not, you know, being impatient. It's just you know, that's what we do. Okay, we've modified our position offerings when we did our mentor teachers, when we did, you know, our other programs that we've moved into place. We've used the existing schedules in order to compensate our staff as adequately as we can, you know, and, you know, we kind of leave that, you know, like up to the administration to move that piece, you know, forward. You know, I appreciate being informed. You know, if you were coming to Russ and I asking for our support as the negotiating team for the board, that's a different, you know, question. You know, you've already got a proposal, you know, that seems to be adequate, since both Russ and I are fairly familiar with those schedules since we helped you guys put them together.
Well, since we're using ESSER money to pay for this, which is one of the allowable uses, is to compensate the nurses for the additional burden of dealing with COVID. Right. So that's why I'm bringing. We have to have a you know, motion approved by the board. And I wanted the board to know that I was doing it equitably and proportionately. So,
Peter.
So we have been living through unique times, and I think that as long as recognize that these have been unique times, and this is not keeping or creating any kind of precedent in terms of future negotiations with the teachers or the nurses or anything else, that it is entirely appropriate to recognize their commitment and their hard work on behalf of the entire district in this way. So I would vote and approve for this and I will be glad to make a motion of that.
Can I make one last comment?
Go ahead, Russ.
I don't have a problem with this. However, I think we should recognize that even though the Labor Management Committee agreed to it, some of the rank and file are going to be upset. I mean, and we need to think about ways we can acknowledge the rest of our tremendous team too. Because again, I don't begrudge, and I understand your point, Tom, But unfortunately, there can be consequences or side effects that are unintended. We just need to make sure we're aware of that.
I have to agree with you, Russ, on that. Absolutely.
So I guess, go ahead, Peter.
I was going to agree that this is going to create a carve out of special group that is getting recognized, and everybody has had to contribute in some way above and beyond during the course of the last several years. The nature of what we've gone through has meant that. And I don't think that by recognizing the special burden that the nurses have had to bear, we are in any way slighting anybody else.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the beginning was the same.
And I certainly agree. The LMC isn't in place of, negotiations or anything like that. But I guess what it is they do represent the union. They are the union officers, and they have discussed this, with their membership. And it's the nurses weren't. I don't know how to describe this because I'm not at all trying to offend someone, but in the pandemic, the nurses have been required to work.
Oh yeah,
every evening till 10 or 11 o'clock at night and all weekend. There were weekends where I was speaking with the nurses at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning to work on protocols. So it to me was above and beyond, because I'm certainly aware of everything Russ and Nancy and everyone's mentioned. It's just the required piece. They didn't have an option. They have a choice. They had to do it in order for school to continue to run, deal with who was a contact. And they were really put in a place that was quite uncomfortable, really, by the Department of Health. They were put into the line, the rank and file almost of the Department of Health in terms of contact tracing in a public health crisis. Quite a bit different than I think all of the rest of us who have been working really hard. And I don't in any way mean to diminish what the teachers or the administrators or the other staff have done. But the nurses have borne a huge burden with COVID and keeping our schools open. The safety of both the kids and the staff.
So I think
no way dollar for dollar,
right.
It's a token amount.
It's the one of the things that I can share from my other role, is we have tried to get as much funding into the state of Vermont as possible. And it's a recognition for a lot of the hard work that's made our state as unique as it's been during this crisis. Regardless of what you think politically or blah, 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 or any of that, we're still considered to be one of the healthiest places to be in the midst of this pandemic. Still, there's a reason why you can't find a house. Okay, we hired 3 administrators at UVM, and I hate to admit this, but they couldn't find a place to live. And so we're having to address that issue. So, but the piece that I'm getting at, is Tom's point about the above and beyond. And that's part of the reason, with our small states grant, there's like 5 or 6 states that have really benefited in a way during this this funding phenomena, so to speak. So we have an obligation, to utilize those funds that have been made available to us, to help support the folks who've helped us to get to where we are. So personally, I support, the effort. We do have to be aware, of that, the point that Russ brought up and Nancy, and let's just keep our thinking caps on, as far as what types of things we might be able to do as we find out more in the utilization of the ESSER funds, especially, because, we keep getting guidance on that every day. It's not like, yep, one size fits all and you're off to the races. I think that's good. That's part of the challenge too.
So is there a motion or something to that effect? I think that for the grant, we need some sort of approval from.
So what's the title of the grant? And then we can.
It's ESSER.
Okay, if there's a subsection of the grant that is requiring a sign off, whatever that is, we can word the motion to that sub part of the grant, if that's what's necessary.
There isn't a subsection. It just, in order to be able to procure the funding, we have to have some documentation that it was discussed at the school board and they approved it, and that Tom outlined how it came about and the equity that's involved with it.
Okay. So basically attaching the minutes of this
Right.
meeting and a motion supporting the utilization of those funds will be the documentation that we need to make it happen. Okay, gotcha. So
almost every district has had to deal with the nursing issue in this. So it's a specific carve out for the nursing staff.
And it's very specific. Yeah. Peter.
So in recognition of the special burdens that the nurses have had to bear during the pandemic, I would move that we authorize a bonus to be paid out of ESSER funds to the nurses according to the formula just discussed by the superintendent, with the understanding that this is a one-time payment made possible by the presence of funds that are not normally present in circumstances that don't normally exist, and that it has no precedent moving forward for negotiations.
I'll second.
We had a triple second on that. So that
second cubed.
Yeah, right. So that being said, any further discussion, Nancy? Oh,
we go.
no, you're
Had to push the right button.
Yeah.
No, I understand I understand what we're trying to do, and I certainly appreciate it. And I think it's one thing that is something that is really good. I really do. But I think it's gonna come back and bite us. I just think that there's gonna be enough people that administratively and the rest of the staff, it's going to come back and bite us on this, and they're going to say, well, wait a minute, I've been up till midnight trying to get all this stuff done, or whatever. I think it's, again, I understand why we're trying to do it, and I appreciate deeply what all the extra time and effort and stuff that these nurses have done, or these people that have done for us. And I understand that Tom has been up with them, especially trying to get the procedures that are changing continually. But I really think it's going to come back and bite us. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's why, we have a 5-member board, like 2. There's always going to be a variation of thought, around things.
Sure.
And that's what makes us work so well together,
Absolutely.
because, we listen to each other and we take it to heart. So we'll be prepared, and prepared to support, the effort too, because as as an employer, different employees have different assignments.
Absolutely.
And sometimes some folks' assignments are a lot weirder than others. No.
Absolutely.
but that being said, my friends, any other discussion, Hava or Russ?
No, I'm all set too. I think I excuse me. I appreciated Peter's comment about this being a good faith of trying to acknowledge the hard work that nurses have done, and hopefully leaving room in the future to also acknowledge other people's hard work as well.
Point well taken. Thank you. Well, actually, both you, Nancy and Russ, because you've eloquently said what we were all thinking. See, that's what I meant. We have to have different members that have that different level of polish. So we have a motion in 3 seconds. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, and we can do a voice vote. Peter?
Aye.
Hava?
Aye.
Nancy?
No.
Russ?
Aye.
And aye.
And just because I voted no, doesn't mean that I'm not going to support the board on this, because I absolutely will. You know that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And you had a valid point. It's
Yeah.
very difficult in an imperfect world to be absolutely fair to everybody.
Right. It is.
And,
It is.
and in no way diminishes the incredible effort, sacrifices, and the trails that the rest of the school community, particularly teachers, have done. It's just we have an opportunity, and if we were to turn it down because we couldn't do it for everybody else, that would have been equally unfair, if not more so.
Well, even Tom was saying, he was up till all hours of the night trying to help these people too. And, so, nope. I'm still a member. They haven't voted me out yet.
So that should take care of our procedural needs, Kathy and Roy.
Yes,
As a
thank you.
precursor, I think that it was included in the packet, right? But the governor suggested using.
Okay, so the next, our next piece
for
seeking. Let's see, what do we got? So we did the nurses
monitoring
global
reports.
Yes.
So those usually
are
part of the consent agenda.
Exactly.
There's not really anything there.
Whoops. I'm a little rusty.
I hope everybody saw them.
Yeah.
If you have any concerns or questions, I will attempt to be responsive.
So I guess at this point, I can ask if there's any public comment, either from the public or from the board, per se. Peter?
So this being the first meeting in February and all that goes with that, I just think it's important that we do recognize that this is Black History Month and that we recognize the importance of our school district representing the complete story of our country, and that that is important.
Thank you. Roy, is there anybody in the audience?
No, Russ is the only attendee in the audience.
I'm doing double duty.
He's working twice as hard as you two.
Okay, all right. No, well, we thought that, because we figured, he was in two places at once, doing that thing.
Just like Batman.
Yeah, really. Hey, there's a new Batman movie. I wonder if Senator Leahy's going to be in that one. I'll have to ask his aide. Okay, okay. But we were in public comment, so that was a fair time to make that comment. Just something I'd like to just share. It's interesting, this whole discussion around equity and inclusion and diversity, and the good work that Mackie's doing, and then the work that our team, is doing with H. Corey as well. And I'm really, proud, of that, of those efforts, that we're making as a district. And I'm really glad that we're not in the midst of the debate around mascots. But I need to say that, because a lot of our colleagues, board members around the state, are dealing, with that topic. And it's so
We just finished it in VSBA.
Yeah.
We just finished that whole long discussion, and that was part of the legislative sessions that I was watching the other night. I'm telling you, if it's, I know that you legislators put in such tremendous amount of time and effort and long hours, but it is become so interesting to me to watch these sessions and to listen to all of this testimony going on. If you don't have anything to do, well, plug into one or two, because you can always watch them later. You don't have to watch them live, but it's very interesting because they've had this big long discussion this week, and we just finished. Well, I was half listening and half going with it, but we just finished it with the VSBA talking about it. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Well, it's right now, because it's been, Rutland right now is the epicenter, obviously.
Right. Exactly.
And the thing is, what it's done is it's divided the community.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's created the level of discourse that you wouldn't want to have, at the board level, even.
Right.
The fact that, you had board members, like yelling at each other during the course of a meeting, and just, I watched their meetings, and, it was a sad day, in board work, so to speak.
Yes.
And for the kids, because the level of trauma, that's one of the things that people haven't talked about in all of this, is the amount of trauma that not only the affected community of kids, but all of the kids are affected by those dissenting voices, and so it's just, who was it that said, our kids are watching, so we need to do a better job.
Yes.
I forget which first lady said that. But anyways, just wanted to put that out there. I hope that we do come to a better resolution, of the mascot
Yes, me too.
discussion statewide,
Me too. Me too. Thanks.
Okay. So that
Oops.
takes care of public comments. Um, we talked about under board professional development, another training. So let's kind of keep that circulating, Hava and Russ. Maybe after we get through the facilities meetings and the ESSER piece, maybe that, let's see. No, that's going to be March. Maybe sometime, maybe the April one might be a time. Was that what you were thinking when you with your calendar? I'm trying to remember where you guys had talked about the spring training.
I would have to go back and look at the calendar that we marked up.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to remember that and pull it up in my brain.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to do it. It's in there. It's stuck in here. I was just trying to dial it in.
You're doing it better than me right now. I will just point out that April, we also have an April break, and so that might change things.
Yeah, that's true too.
Also.
Yeah. Good point. So we'll have to give that some thought as we move through the end of this month and into March. Cool.
Hey, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a quick comment under professional development?
Sure.
I watched one of the VSBA's presentation on open meeting law, and I would strongly encourage everyone else to, because it was very informative. And one thing that we'd sort of talked about in the past, but really hit home for me, is the dangers of participating in a Facebook discussion. Because if more than three or more of us are members of the same group and we engage in a discussion, that could be technically considered a violation of the open meeting law.
Yep.
So Russ, would you mind sending that link, to the rest of the board?
Not our fault, but.
Because that's a great topic, too, and you could actually do that over a cup of coffee or whatever your other chosen.
Wondering if we could just a advisory claim
Yes.
for some school construction
Okay.
in CTE. And just leave it
So,
at that.
And Coach,
yes.
just an FYI, VSBA does a monthly training, like what Russell was talking about, and they're free, and they're an hour, and it's only from noon to 1, so you can grab a sandwich and a glass of tea or something.
Russ, what?
I said tea. But they're really good. They're very informative, and they have a lot of resources to add to it.
Yep.
So I encourage you all to jump right onto them. You're more than welcome to do it.
We actually, we put the schedule, the calendar that Hav and Russ created onto the work plan. So in your folder, all those ideas.
Good. Good. Yeah.
Diversity, equity, inclusivity, or inclusion are on the May 25th.
See, I
Thanks, Tom.
I wasn't too far away. Okay.
No, I forgot that we were that efficient and actually put it right into the board. So that's exciting.
No, I'll tell you, the strange things stick in your head, so.
Pretty specifically to SEL.
Yeah, we put them in there. So we've got February now, 23rd was open engagement, March 23rd is ends reporting. April 27th is ends reporting, May 25th is DEI, and June 8th, we're not, well, June, the second meeting in June, we usually don't have, so that's
Right.
up to.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to the consent agenda.
Related on.
You've got a couple appointments, three sets of minutes, just so you remember. There's quite a few sets of minutes there. So appointments, we have Jeremy Willett at the tech center.
Nancy, could you
Yes, sir.
mute, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
PCDs, but I don't think that's the only
Thanks.
for school construction.
Maybe if I can get it to come up.
And that money
There.
for our
Thanks. Okay, Tom.
Fatima Shabazz at Ottaquiche School as a classroom teacher. Aaron Tomlinson is the new Director of Adult Ed and Curriculum Instruction and Assessment at the HACTC. Then we have several important retirements. I feel like I should have a drum roll first, but Kathy Newton is retiring. And we're going to miss her tremendously. Deb Cabral at WRS at White River School, Mark Hamilton from the high school, Andrea Moranci is the nurse at the Dokenbrook School, and Margaret Centurino, librarian at the high school, have all submitted their letters of retirement. And then we have three resignations. Evan Ellison, science teacher at the high school, Candy Culver's a math teacher at the middle school, and Dave Jock, who's not exactly sure. I think he's called STEAM, but he runs basically
Yeah, right.
tech ed.
Yep.
At the
Yep.
So a lot of big losses and a couple really terrific new hires. But
So Kathy, you know, when we hear, so will this be the fourth time we get you to come back? No.
No, no, this is it.
we've dragged her out of retirement a couple times.
You know, geez, you know,
You'd have to discuss that with my husband.
I had a feeling it was going to be that kind of, you know, this time around for sure.
You moving to a
Maynard-
different state and changing your name?
Maynard Mayville was the only other one that I can think of that we bought out of retirement, like, well, you know, multiple times, you know, he just kept reinventing himself, you know. But
Roy and I aren't done with that yet. We'll see. To be continued.
Right.
Next to her name.
But I guess yeah. Well, Peter does the motion, so I'll
All right. I move that we accept the consent agenda with a greeting to the new members of our community and a fond farewell to those who are leaving, and thanks for all they have done. Some of them more times than they should have, perhaps.
Do we have a second?
Nancy.
No, see, they're not even going to acknowledge it. So I guess you can't go, Kathy.
I second.
Nancy seconded.
Oh, so Kathy seconded herself.
Kathy's trying to second. She's
I don't think I
Nancy
can.
seconded.
Oh, so but we do have a second. Who was
Nancy.
the magic second? Nancy was the
Nancy
second.
seconded,
Sherry,
yes.
just so you know. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we've accepted our consent agenda. We have the meeting evaluation, and then we have an executive session that we'll be going into. So Hava, do you have a copy of the evaluation? Andy?
I do.
Cool.
I think I even might have it open today.
All
Hot
right.
dog. All right.
See, she's kicking it.
All right. At the end of the board meeting, each board member and superintendent appointed evaluator for the meeting completes the monitoring form. Responses are shared and discussion is held on the areas that need improvement. The chair collects the completed forms to use in the board's monitoring reports. Number one, the board was prepared for the meeting satisfactory. Board's time was spent on ends not meeting satisfactory. Each board member was given an opportunity to participate satisfactory. Board treated all persons with courtesy and fairness satisfactory. Board adhered to Robert's Rules of Order satisfactory. Board adhered to adopted governance style by A, emphasize outward vision, B, encourage diversity in viewpoints. We exercised that tonight. C, it exercised strategic leadership, not administrative detail. And D, it maintained distinction between board and staff roles. E, it used collective decision-making. F, it looked to the future. Satisfactory. Any comments by anybody that we should add in here for tonight?
Cool.
We're good.
Great. Thank you. So before we make the motion to go into executive session, I'd like to make a request. In the event that our deputy chief of police, Brad Vale, takes the position that he's been offered as chief of Barry Police Department, if that does occur, Tom, could you start drafting a letter thanking him for his service to the district, over the last 12 years?
Absolutely.
Because he's been an integral part in our safety team over the years. And, I just felt that, I guess he's got a little time before he accepts the offer, but it was on the news this afternoon that they offered him the position.
He's been a true friend of the Hartford School District and has kept
Yes,
us
he
all safe for a long time. So I can say how fond I am of Deputy Chief Brad Vale. He's a great guy.
So and we can talk next meeting, quickly about, like if we want to do it, like have it embossed in a plaque or whatever, some kind of a, an acknowledgement. But I'd like to send something special, with him from Hartford. So anyways, and we can address, any kind of formal motion next meeting, but I just wanted to put that out there for folks. Peter.
Pursuant to 1 VSA section 313A3, I move that we find that there's a need for an executive session, discuss the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, and that we move to enter into such executive session.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All in favor? And
Aye.
it is aye.
Aye.
And we're going in at 7:55.
So just so everyone knows, what's been recommended to us by CATV is that we do that in the Google Meets so that there's no risk of anyone else jumping into our executive session via Zoom or via the phone, or so That's why I sent that link last night. And if you need that again, it's your Google link and you'll follow that calendar link right into the executive session. And then when you come out of executive session, if there's a motion, I'll record it and send it to Sherry. And if there isn't, I'll just record the time that you adjourn and that'll be that.
Great.
So
We're
we
exiting
are
the
actually
Zoom.
leaving this meeting. We're gonna
Yes.
push the leave button and go in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as
Yes.
long as you have that link, just make sure you saw that. I made sure to send it. To
Yeah, I
all-
saw it. I saw it.
So I just got it.
And make sure you're in your Hartford School District email.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we're leaving this one.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
All right, good night, all.
Good night. So leave this one.